Routine for us, really good practices. Quarterbacks have been sharing reps. I know everybody wants to know about quarterbacks. They've shared reps all the way through. We did really had about an 80% scrimmage today, a little bit of individual work, a lot of situations, things that we feel like are important in preparing to start the season next year. With as much youth as we have at certain spots, it's important for us to be further ahead in preparation, situational, for the first game next year. Okay, we're very experienced in some positions, and then we don't have any experience in some positions, and so it's one of those years, a little bit different. Everybody's getting a little bit better. For the most part, we're all healthy. Devin Harper still won't be out there in the spring. He's had a foot. Other than that, I think most everybody else that's been practicing will be out there. So we've been very fortunate in that area for the spring scrimmage, spring practice, I should say, half scrimmage, half practice that we'll put on. We're going to go about an hour and a half for the fans. Now, we'll be out there as a team for 2 hours. I believe the doors open at 12. Essentially, the majority of it will start at 1 o'clock. Some people might come early, but that'll be the stretch. That'll be some special teams, drill work and such. We'll have an individual period. And then we'll have an individual where offense and defense works together, a lot of teaching and coaching. And then during the practice, we'll have a 7-on, an extensive period where the fans can see the quarterbacks throw the ball. We'll have an inside drill where we'll line it up and we'll bang heads for a little while. There'll be some one-on-one where you guys will get to see the wideouts and corners and safeties go against each other. There's been some really good battles this year, I tell you. I've been impressed with 4 and 8 and their development against our receivers. So I think the fans will really like that. And then we'll get into basically a 36-play scrimmage where it'll be scripted, but it'll be scripted so we can try to highlight some things I think the crowd would want to see. People would ask, why are we doing that? The reason we're doing that is because if we don't, defense can somewhat guide what the offense does, and then the fans might not get to see some of the people touch the ball or plays that we would want to run. So I think that will benefit the crowd more. That part will be scripted. Then we'll have a 2-minute drill, which will be live. Everybody will just call the plays, run it. Then we'll do a couple other things. Should be about an hour and a half. I figured that an hour and a half of solid football with maybe a 5-minute break. It's supposed to be like 85 degrees, so we might take a little break. But I thought that would be about what the people would want to see. Then they can come down and see the players, get autographs, talk to the players, and then go to baseball or whatever it may be. So we're very fortunate. We have a beautiful day, beautiful Easter weekend, and we're going to have great football and a lot of festivities here on campus. So we're looking forward to it.
Are you way ahead at safety, considering how much youth you had last year, and those guys got so many snaps, so many reps?
Way ahead from where we were last year, certainly.
Okay.
They're better in our system now. Safety is not an easy position to play in this defense, so it takes experience. It takes reps to make sure you don't get eye violated, things like that, and they continue to get better. And we do a decent job with play action here, so they really get tested. We're further ahead, certainly, but we need a lot of work.
All right, this is a summer question. Would you prefer for your guys to be in the weeds a little bit? And by what I mean is, kind of come from out of nowhere a little bit as compared to being some years where you're picked in the top 2 or 3 in the league and contending? Or does it matter to you where people pick you?
I thought you were making a statement for the legalization of cannabis.
No, I'm not talking about cannabis or, no.
Anyway, either way, Robert, you know me. You've been around me a long time. It doesn't make a difference to me what people think preseason. In the end, we're going to play all the games. You got to compete. The good thing about being in our league is you're going to play everybody. So there's probably a point in time where it may be more difficult for a team that's a preseason top 10. They become the hunted more so than the hunter. So, but overall with our guys, we're just trying to instill in them the basic fundamentals of what we have to do to play well in the middle of August to try to get ready to play on the road for the first game.
You mentioned a few weeks ago that Gleason had been working with the quarterbacks more on technique, stuff like footwork and stuff like that. Have you seen improvements in those regards in that short window so far?
Oh, I think so, but you realize now these two guys are new, so it's different. The things that I've seen are much different from 4 years of Mason and Corn, so it is different, but they're all different. They coach different. Larry was coaching one way, and Dana was one way, and Munkin one way, and Mike, and now Sean. So they all have their different drills and things they do. There are some similarities. Sean's probably a little more in the footwork part of it than maybe the other guys were in some other areas. I don't know if one way's right or wrong, but overall, I'm pleased with the development of those guys. We have a long ways to go, but I'm pleased with how they've performed and learning to play in our system, which is very important.
You talk about his focus on footwork. Is that sort of a sign of maybe his attention to detail? What do you expect?
Yeah, I would say, he's a very detailed guy. He's a young guy that's very cerebral and technology sound. So I think from the standpoint, he's different than the other guys in that area. There's a lot of ways to get the job done, but he's going to be very attention to detail.
I think you mentioned last week that the quarterbacks might have been a little babied through how drills have gone up to the scrimmage on Friday. How did you see them handle that scenario?
Oh, I thought they were good. We had 0 turnovers, and so that's really the important part of playing that position. You have to distribute the ball to whoever gives us the best chance to win based on what the defense presents us, and then you have to take care of the football. Once you accomplish those two things, then you can go play and make plays. So I was pleased that we didn't turn the ball over. But they didn't have any help. They were on their own. So they did make a stride last week.
Eamon is a guy that you've talked about a couple of times, and it's kind of time for him to make some strides. You're still seeing what you want from him.
He's improving and getting better. And, with the departure of the guys that had played here before him, now it's his turn to step up. He needs to play well. He needs to be a leader, both on and off the field. And I think he's making those strides. Obviously we'll know a lot more once we get going. I'm always somewhat tentative to step up there or jump on a table for somebody until we see them fight through October. They have to be strong and mentally and physically in August and play well to lead and then be tough and all those different things. And by middle of October, we usually know if those guys are in a position to perform what we're asking them to accomplish.
Now that we're through that scrimmage, how do you feel your early enrollees have performed?
Well, 10, Harper is doing really good. He's above and further along where I thought a high school player would be. I'm trying to think of who else is in there early. You give me some names.
Jernigan?
Yeah, he's doing good. Yeah, tougher for him. He's living in a world that's not as easy, but he's doing good. He's stayed healthy and he's competing. I thought we had one more.
Sione on that.
Yeah, Sione is older, but he's doing good. Made it through, living that world down there. Much more physical than what he's accustomed to, but he seems to be doing fine. And then Dez is doing fine. Dez had a little ham, but he practiced full speed today, so I would expect him to go full on Saturday. So he's coming along.
You had a lot to say about him. How's Tom Hutton done so far at this rank?
He's doing good. I'm somewhat fascinated, as you guys could tell, by their ability, those type of kicker punters' ability to handle a ball. Pretty cool. So we set up a 7-minute period on Saturday in the middle of practice to give the other guys kind of a break and let him punt, so you guys could kind of see it's pretty cool. So I wanted y'all to be able to see it. Somewhat entertaining, Part of what we do Saturday's got to be entertainment, take care of the fans, so on and so forth. And I think it'll be entertaining to watch him. And what's happened is he's helped 39. He's really helped him, and he's kind of watched him, and it's pretty cool that he's been able to pick up on some of it. I'm not sure that he can move to Sydney and join an Australian rules team yet, but he has picked up on some of those traits. It's been pretty cool.
Last few years, we've seen number 2, number 3 running back ultimately play a role in this offense. How have the guys behind Chuba looked so far this spring?
Doing well. LD's doing good. Dez was doing good. Had the ham. Missed 2 or 3 practices. Back to being full speed today. Who else we have back here? We have one other one. Jeter's done well, and he's maneuvered his way through and made some plays. He's done pretty well. So I feel okay with that position. In most cases, if you have 2 good players and a reliable, solid, maybe veteran backup, that's really all you can ask for in most situations. Nowadays, if it gets beyond that, probably not going to have them on your team. They're probably going to move somewhere else. So that's a position I feel pretty good about this time.
How invaluable were those practices for Jeter at the end of last year when you guys decided to move him up?
Well, Jeter and Spencer and all of them, you know, in the bowl practices last year, we spent about 30 minutes a day with guys that were redshirting or have not played much. I felt the need to get some of these guys going based on the inexperience at certain positions, and it really helped. There's just no substitute for experience in live work when it actually matters. And we put them in live situations during bowl practice.
I know penalties drove you nuts last year. So, and you've had striped shirts, I guess, in every session.
Every practice, anybody that could officiate or anybody that can officiate that can wear a shirt, we put them in it and stood them out there. So
Have you ever done that before, though, Mike? Like every practice?
So we put them there, and they're watching everything. There's repercussions for penalties. It's talked about. It's coached. You know, that's the only way you fix things, right? You address it, come up with a plan, put it in order, and then they have to perform. It's our job to make them aware of it. It's our job to have discipline and structure and a plan for stopping it. Then they got to go do it. You know, it's almost like shooting a basketball. Coaches can draw up a lot of plays, then you got to shoot it. At some point, you got to shoot it and make it. And it's the same thing with penalties. I didn't address it well enough last year, and I let it slide, and it was a mistake. I'm not letting it happen right now. So we'll see if it works.
So, was there a point last season at which you just threw a fit or broke a window or threw a chair? You know what I mean?
No,
When it just got so crazy.
You know what? You get into, you know, in my position as coaching, it's almost like when you've been married a long time to your wife, and then you get so far in an argument, and you realize you might as well just quit because nobody's going to win in this situation. I didn't do a good job in the off season and preseason of addressing penalties, and so once it gets that late, you spend a lot of time on Tuesday or Wednesday chewing on them, and then they worry more about that than they do getting ready for the game, and it becomes counterproductive. So essentially what happened is I didn't do a good job of addressing the issue, and I feel like I have done it. The coaches are buying in, and that eventually bleeds into the team.
How has Brendan Costello done? I imagine it could be a lot to take in for a young guy.
He hasn't been out there a lot in the reps. You know, he's not getting that work, but we did work him last Friday, and he played very well. I don't know what his numbers were. I think he was like 5 or 6 for 120 yards. He played better than you would expect him for a high school kid. I mean, it's difficult. Harper and him, and those high school guys that are, you know, should be getting out of school at noon, going out, hanging out, you know, maybe a little baseball practice or whatever, and then going to prom. They're out here doing this. It's not easy, but he's doing pretty well.